Welcome back to Adulting and Money. And today we're going to go over how to set up your spreadsheet. And I'm not going to do a big nerd laugh with my glasses all taped up or anything. But what we're going to do is go over how to use a spreadsheet. Try not to focus too much on the numbers exactly right now. We're just going to go over a real brief overview of how the spreadsheet is used to manage your accounts and fundamentally change your relationship and your spouse's relationship with money. One of the first things I want you to notice is down here in the tabs. This just says sheet one right now. I'm using Google Sheets because that's what I use. But what we're going to do is go over this whole thing and we'll explain each of these pieces individually. But right now we're going to focus on just a little bit of like spreadsheet management and how you can use it to make your life a little bit easier. So one of the things I do is rename the sheet to the year and the month, just so you can keep it straight. And this is real simple. Just right click on that, change, type it in. It's pretty simple. You can do this however you want. I do it this way because as you do it month by month, you end up with a whole bunch of tabs across the bottom. And this is just easier to keep it from being spaced out, because if you type too long, the more tabs you add, you end up with ... at the bottom and you can't actually read it. Also, if you notice, I've picked James and Mary. I literally Googled just to see the most common male and female names in America, and that's what they are. So we're doing James, we're doing Mary. If you're wondering about where I got this income totals from, also Googled, figured out what's the average man make in America, what's the average woman make in America, and I'm not going into the whole gender wage gap, all that stuff. This is reality. This is where the numbers are. It is what it is. So what this does right here is show you exactly who is making what and when they get paid. I picked random dates right here, but this is a bi-weekly paycheck, and you can move these based on the dates. Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. I recommend using like 5 of these, because if you have one person that gets paid once a month and one person gets paid bi-weekly, you'll have an odd number and you'll just have to move it around to organize it. Again, you just put the dates in right here, and I just do this just so I can keep track. Now I start with these yellow, and when I get paid, then I turn them green. This works really, really well if you already know what your paycheck's going to be, but if you don't, you can kind of estimate and go from there. Another thing I've done is create a key down here. You can use whatever colors you want. I just kind of did these to keep my eyes from going crazy, and I try to make it pleasing colors where it doesn't completely drive me insane when I see things. But if I see something red, I know it's bad. Green is good. That's just what I shoot for. From this over here, I have these yellow because these are tentative. The rent hasn't been paid yet for April because it's, well, as of right now, it's not April yet. When you're watching, it might be. But this is the average rent in America as well. So yours may be higher, may be lower. This is also the average power, the average water and trash bill, average cable internet, average phone. These are all just random things that I've Googled to figure out what's the average person pay. It is the end of March of 2020, so if you're watching this in the future, these numbers are clearly wrong. However, the concept of paying your bills right here is exactly what we're shooting for. Again, I said I'm using Google Sheets just because it's easiest to use and I can access it from anywhere, get it from my phone if I'm out at the store, but Google Sheets is free. Microsoft Office is pay, depending on, and OpenOffice is free if you choose to use those. They all have little nuances and the formulas may be slightly different, but the concept is exactly the same. Use whichever you are most comfortable with. One advantage to having it online in a shared file is that you can access it from anywhere, as I mentioned previously. So as a quick overview, this is the income that we computed. Remember, we talked about percentages. This is this right here. The next one is the joint checking account where you put all your bills. These are all here, and this is adjusted for percentage. Remember in the previous video where we adjusted the rent based on the percentage of money each person was making? This is the exact same formula applied right here, and it's just spread across all of the bills. Down here, this is envelopes. You can call this whatever you want, but this is stuff that is in checking, and some of it is in savings. The blue is saved in your savings account because it's something you don't access all the time. The white down here is what we have in checking, and these are all something you have to decide for you and your budget and what works for you, but we're going to go over those later. Down here we have the totals listed, and what these do is they tell you exactly how much goes where. For instance, this one is going into bills and envelopes. This is how much you put into your savings account every month. This up here, I've computed these. This is James' expenses. This is Mary's expenses. Again, average car insurance, average cell phone cost. This is what I came up with. I threw in some gym. James likes to play Xbox, so he pays $10 a month. I just threw in some random things. And then this is what the total amount that they're depositing over the course of the month is. And this is what their paychecks, this is what they deposit in each paycheck. So we'll go over this even more detail as we're building our own spreadsheet. And you'll do this with yours using your numbers. I also wanted to add, I do have one color coding over here. It says joint credit card. I recommend getting a small credit card as a couple and putting some small bills on it just for the purposes of building credit. And that will help you stay out of trouble, provided you don't use it for anything else except that, because you're going to actually pay that credit card off at the end of every month. All right, so now we're getting into you doing your bills. I'm going to continue using James and Mary because it's what I have. That's the numbers I have. I don't have your numbers, so I'm going to keep building this. So over here we have income for each. We have James and Mary. These are just regular number cells right here. This is a date cell right here. It will automatically format if you type it in. This is exactly what they have. Now these cells right here under totals, those are the sum of, and if you click right here, you can see it's this little square around this whole thing. The way you do that is you type equals sum and then parentheses, and then what you can do is drag your mouse over all the blocks and then close parentheses and hit enter, and it works. I did the exact same thing for Mary, and you can tell by looking at that's where her paychecks are. And again, the percentages on this one is using the total here divided by the sum of B8 plus C8, which is the two incomes counted together. So it's the exact same formula. I've just got it buried in another formula. Again, pause the video if you need to go type that. And over here, I have the exact same thing, except I'm using C8 because we're starting with, and I tried to point at it and you can't see it. We're using Mary's income divided by the total. I did want to show you one other thing on the income, because a lot of people don't get paid every 2 weeks and they get paid very infrequently, or they get paid nightly or whatever, especially people in the service industry. So what you want to do is take this, just highlight this whole block, drag this way down here out of the way. And as long as your formulas are in, it will keep and it will be just fine. So what you want to do is take these and spread them out. So what I'm going to do is take this 1 April right here, and you see this little square box right here in the corner. You take this, you drag it all the way down to here. And that went down to 25 April. So I'm going to scroll down. Again, I'm going to drag this, just highlight the whole thing, drag it out of the way, go to this 25 April, and I'm going to drag it down here about that far. So you can see where I've gotten to 1 May and 2 May. And what I'm going to do is delete those rows because I don't need those. Delete rows. All right. Now, once we've got to this point, what we want to do is fill everything in. So we already know these dates right here. These are bi-weekly. What I want to do is take these two cells, and I keep these grayed out so I know those aren't paydays, so it keeps my brain from getting confused when I glance at it. Drag it down. It'll just automatically format down to here. Now, well, we said we know he gets paid on the 1st. James also gets paid plus 14, so he gets paid on the 15th. So we're going to drag this down to 15 April. And Mary gets paid on the 8th, and she gets paid on the 22nd. So now I have these. I'm going to copy that cell, highlight those, Control V, paste. So this is what it would look like if you spread it out over a course of an entire month. Now the way you can do this is, if you are getting paid daily, let's say James works as a busser at a restaurant, so he brings home $75 here. What he needs to do is every day that he gets paid, we're going to do a copy and paste, just because I've already got these formatted as numbers, or excuse me, we're going to copy and paste because I have these already formatted as dollars. And then he would say, well, I came home with $36 that day. And then each day that he works, and I'm just going to copy and paste these real quick so you'll see what it would look like. He's not making very good money at $36 a night. Yeah, $147. Not very much. So now you're like, oh, well, what happened? Mary doesn't make any money. What's going on here? So our numbers are messed up. So this happens frequently. So what you want to do is make sure when you go into this cell, you can click on it and look at it, see what it says. Well, it says C7 right here. It says C7. So what you want to do is look at where does the end? It's C32. And you see how it highlights the whole block once you type it in. Again, I'm pointing and you can't see what I'm pointing at. I got to work on that. And then we're going to do the same thing over here with James. We're going to change this to B 32. Now again, look at the percentages. James is not making as much money now as Mary is. What this does highlight, though, is some additional budgeting challenges that you are going to face if you have a nightly income or even a weekly income that's unstable. For example, construction work or service industry, like we said. So what you want to do is make sure you're tracking all of these exactly. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to, well, how do I get this into the joint checking account? And I understand that that'll be a detail you have to work through. However, the way this system works is you pay your bills a month in advance. This is March 2020, and we are paying bills for April 2020. So we're paying these a month in advance. This doesn't mean I can blow the money I have. This means that I'm putting it into my account and then I'm transferring some of it out. We're going to go back here to the original spreadsheet that we were looking at. You can see they have a paycheck on the 8th, and over here there is a deposit that she has to make on the 8th as well. This would be the same thing if you were on a daily or seasonal paycheck, so you'd want to pay these in advance so you'd be able to track them. The best way to do that for people in the service industry is know your average monthly income and base your budget based off of that. If you have a really good month, then you put some money into savings to save for the next month that you have a slow month. One last thing I'm going to go over that makes this really simple and beneficial to work with is rounding. Notice there's no pennies in this spreadsheet. Do not rack your brain over that 3 cents that you can't find in your account, because it'll drive you nuts trying to find it. In this case, what I do is I round everything up or round everything down, depending on whether it's a deposit or a credit or a bill or a withdrawal. If it's something that comes out of your account, round up. If you pay your water bill and it's $70.32, subtract $71 off your budget. You will pay yourself into your account the extra change that's left over for that dollar. And if you look at these, on average, you'll have about 50 cents every bill that you're going over. And if you look at this, you're going to add $10, $15 into your account every month that you won't know is there. You're going to somewhat reconcile your account, but what it'll be is just check to make sure there is a credit or a debit based on the amount that you're expecting from the source you're expecting. So if it says water bill $70.32, you say, yes, I was expecting a $71 bill. When you get paid, what you're looking at is your total paycheck, and then you're going to deposit a certain amount. When you look at the percentages that are to 2 decimal points, this is going to say $912 and a certain amount of pennies. What you want to do is round that up. In this case, I'm going to show you how to do that real quickly just to keep it simple. Again, this is Google Sheets, so if you're using Excel or OpenOffice, it might be slightly different. So in Google Sheets, it's very simple to do. When you look at this number right here, if you want to round that up, you literally type between the equal sign and the open parentheses, round up. It's thinking. There we go. So now what it's done is it's taken the pennies that would have been left over. Instead of averaging it, it would actually round it up to the nearest whole number. And if we do the same thing on this one, you should see it change to the exact same result. So there we go. I have our spreadsheet set back to where we started with bi-weekly income, just to keep it simple so you can keep track of it. Again, if you're struggling with how to do this, just kind of go back and watch the video again, and you'll be able to catch up with where we are on the math, and we'll be going over more in the next video. Next video, we're going to go over the joint bills and how to set those up and how to do the formulas for that. But for now, I hope you've got to the point where you've got your names, you've got the dates, and you've got your percentages figured out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Appreciate any comments. I hope this is informative. Again, this may not be for everybody, but it's what works for me, and I encourage you to at least give it a shot. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode.